Peace, everybody. I'm with my brother Klown. I've been wanting to speak to Klown for a while, and we finally got a chance right now. We're in Yonkers, New York City. This is my first trip out to New York. And my understanding, Klown is OG, and me and him's been speaking over the years, and I kind of wanted him to, to speak on my channel and talk about his history and how he got involved with the game. So can you explain to me, Klown, like how did you get the name Klown and what year did you start?
First of all, I didn't notice it's your first trip to New York.
Yes,
Wow.
First time.
Well, hey, welcome to the East Coast. Welcome to the New York, New York.
Yeah,
so nice
bro.
they named it twice.
Yes.
Wow. We're going to try to make this a special weekend for you since this is your first time. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
so we're gonna
first time in New York.
The few days we're going to have some fun.
Okay.
You're probably going to be here longer, but
yeah.
I'm here for a few days. All right, so I started in 1980.
1980.
It's when I started street dancing. Okay. And the first thing I learned was the moonwalk. And I learned it from a family friend. Mm-hmm. My brother did the hustle. He was a popular hustle dancer in the Bronx.
Okay.
Doing hustle. And a little bit of vogue. He was gay. And his friend, his partner at the time, who also, his name was Julio. My real name is Julio. His name was Julio.
Okay.
They used to hustle together and go to competitions and local stuff. Mm-hmm. One day, Julio came to the house and he said, "Hey, man, check this out. The hustle, that's out, man. Watch this." He did the moonwalk, and I was just like, we were all blown away. Like, what the hell is that? And I had a seed planted in my head for some reason, because I remember seeing, as a little further back, seeing Rerun. Mm. So I had a seed planted, and I knew that the moonwalk, for some reason, I knew the moonwalk was related to that for some reason.
Yeah. Because
the first thing I did was, I said, "Oh, I could do this." And then Julio goes, "Oh, no, that's the Rerun, but no, not that. That's all. This is new. The moonwalk." You know what I mean? So I said, "I want to learn it." So he taught me the moonwalk. And once I learned the moonwalk, that was the one move I had that I went everywhere and did.
Okay.
I couldn't do nothing else but just moonwalk, but I knew that I was a good moonwalker. And I was going to, not like far off block parties, far off jams, big jams, but little block parties that were around the corner from my house in a schoolyard or down the block. DJs are playing out on the streets like what they did in the Bronx.
Can I share something with you real quick? When we first seen that move, we call it the backslide.
Right.
They call it the moonwalk because Michael commercialized it. But when we seen it on the street, we call it the backslide.
At the time, they still called it at the time.
We didn't call it the moonwalk.
Well, I know. That's the West Coast.
Right.
But I'm talking about here in the East Coast. In the East Coast, when I first saw it, when Julio showed it to me, he said the moonwalk. Okay. And this was before Michael Jackson did it on Motown.
Oh, okay.
All right.
That was '83 when Michael did it in Motown.
Right. And I learned the moonwalk in 1980.
Okay.
And it was called the moonwalk in 1980. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But in the West Coast, they called it the backslide. We didn't know. We were clueless.
Yeah, because you're sliding backwards, the backslide.
Right. We didn't know that.
Right.
Because you guys were popping, we weren't. We were breaking or whatever we were doing. So, but anyway, so I learned the moonwalk and moonwalked all over my neighborhood in little jams. That was my battle move. Moonwalk, do whatever on the top, and then just did the moonwalk. I thought I was just acing everybody with that, you know what I mean? But eventually I started meeting local dancers a few blocks up from my house that actually had movement. And I started, you watch, you learn, you pick it up on yourself. At that time you didn't go to anybody and say, "Hey man, teach me this move."
I know.
Because that wasn't, you just try to figure it out on your own. You know what I mean? So I'm figuring these things out on my own, and I'm in front of a mirror in my house, in my apartment, and I seen a guy do a guy that I know now as Crazy Wave. I think he might have passed away.
Crazy Wave?
Yeah, he used to do pretty cool waves, but He didn't do the cobra, but he did something like a cobra. Where he brought his chest around, he did it like that, and it was like his chest would come out.
Oh, okay.
And it just looked so wicked to me that I saw that. I said, I gotta get that. I gotta get that. I gotta get that. I gotta figure that out. And I went in front of my mirror for hours going, trying to just get my chest to go out as far as I can and turn it and go like that. And turn it and go like that. Just try to get it. Just kept doing it over and over, like drilling it over and over again until I start seeing it. It looks kind of like what he was doing. I'm figuring this thing out. Then that became now I'm moonwalking and I got this crazy chest thing going on. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, I see something, I try to figure it out on my own. You know what I mean? And that went on for about a year.
That was your main move?
That, the moonwalk.
Okay.
I saw somebody do the shake, you know, the electric thing.
Vibration?
Yeah, the vibration. And I said, I learned the vibration thing, you know what I mean? And then at one point, at my junior high school, I went to a talent show and I saw two crews there. One was a good friend of mine, still my friend to this day, much older than me. His name is Disco Jr. Okay. Now Disco Jr., you can already tell by his name, he's Disco. So he goes way back, right? Disco Jr. is there with his crew, and then there's Eric, who was in my school. He was around my age, maybe a little bit younger, and Henry and N.Y.C, right? And then Disco Jr. and his crew, which I don't know who those guys were because I never met them after that. I did meet Junior sometime after, and that's how I got to know his name was Junior and all that stuff. So Henry and N.Y.C and Eric, Henry and N.Y.C were not in my school, but they would hang out in front of the school. And Eric went to the school. He was their kid. And in the talent show, they did the chain. Oh, yeah. Right? So they brought and they got to Eric. And Eric had like a little, like a necklace, with like a plate necklace. He was dressed sharp with the sham shirt, you know what I mean, and the hat. He was, you know. And since he was a little kid, when it got to him, and then they started going boop boop boop, ticking and going bop 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 bop, and going crazy and sliding, and, you know, a lot of energy with little kid. The whole school screamed. He was a star because he was a kid, and he was killing it. And then I saw N.Y.C went for a solo, and he's grabbing the handlebars, and he's doing mime, and he's sliding across the stage. And you see Hen Love, and Hen Love is the closest I seen to like a guy like who I met and saw later on was Loose Bruce, who's kind of equivalent.
I wanted to talk about him too.
Kind of equivalent to our Popping Pete or something. He had that.
I seen that in Wild Style.
Yeah. So Hen Love kind of had that. Hen Love, when he went up and saw it, he's okay. He kind of had that type of thing. So it was like a lot of swag with his thing, you know, and movement. So I was like, man, these dudes are badass. They killed it, right? And then the second group came up, which was Disco Jr. and his crew. Now they came up, they looked like what, if you look at an old video of an LA crew with suspenders. Yeah. You know what I mean? And the gloves, and the what do you call it, and the bow tie. The bow tie. And the same matching sneakers with black and white, what do you call it, and they're doing with the gloves, and and they're doing routines. These guys are doing routines. They're behind each other, and they're doing all this stuff, and I'm like, yo, like, they, even at a young age, I said, they won, because their whole routine was sharp. I said, they won, but they didn't. Because Eric went to that school, and everybody liked their style. It was like very, you know, it was faster. Like Disco Jr.'s crew was doing, right. You know, the robot type stuff, you know. And now when I look back at it, I'm like, where did he get that from? Because he wasn't from the West Coast, but he was dancing like the way the West Coast people were doing back then. I'm like, where did he get that from? Then I found out that he was from the South, and I think the South had a connection, a closer connection than the West Coast than the people up here in the East Coast, Northeast. Okay. You know what I mean? So they had that style, and they dressed the part. I mean, there's pictures of Disco. He got the fro. He's, you know what I mean? And I swore they won. but there was something about that swag, having that nameplate, the way they were dressed. They weren't matching, but they still had the dope sneakers on, you know. And each of them had a different style. Eric was the kid. He was doing all these ticks. You know what I mean? N.Y.C was doing those things, getting on the skateboard. You know what I mean? Doing the skateboard. You know, a lot of mime stuff, right? And then N.Y.C was coming out, and he was just like leaning and posing, and it was dope. The swag, I think the swag, they won the little girls over in the junior high school. They won them. Yeah. Because suspenders, that wasn't, you know what I mean? That wasn't the thing at that time, especially here in the East Coast. So, but that made me want to start venturing out. Like, there's more than the guys up the block from here or this person over here. There's more than that. So I started venturing out. I started having to fucking stay on a train or sleep out on the street because if I didn't get home at a certain time, I wasn't getting in. That was my mother's rule. You want to be a man, you want to stay out late, stay the fuck out all night now. You know what I mean?
I'll crack my bedroom window open.
It was not as easy because we lived in apartments.
Yeah, we lived in a house.
You know, we lived in apartment buildings. You know what I mean? So it wasn't as easy to do that. Right. You know? You have to go up fire escapes, other people's fire escapes. You know?
Oh, okay.
So you stay the fuck out. So a few times I wind up just staying out on the street. I'll go to jams. The jam will end, if I was lucky, 1 or 2 in the morning. And then the rest of the night, I'd walk around with whoever I was with at the jam or whoever's still walking around because they couldn't get in their house either or whatever the case. Oh, okay. So I wound up chilling all night. And I started meeting people. Started meeting other people in the neighborhoods and other jams and didn't give a fuck. At that point, I got a place to crash. Or even if I just have to just sit down in the hallway with them all night and talk and practice until the sun comes out and then I can go home. You know what I mean? So as I started venturing out is when I started meeting other people, other dope dancers I met. I used to go down to Webster Avenue, Webster and Washington Avenue. There was a DJ out there called DJ Supreme, and there was another one named DJ Formulo. And they used to do these jams right there on 169th Street in Washington, Webster Avenue. And dope cats used to be out there. That's where I met Corey, Pop-A-Lot Corey, who was dope. Mr. Wave, Tony, before he was with N.Y.C Breakers, he used to be out there. Guy named Scooter, who became my partner. Scooter was the shit. To me, he was the best out of all of them. Scooter was smooth. Scooter danced for the women. So he was smooth with his shit. You know,
and these are all brothers though, right?
They're all black.
Okay.
This is Washington Webster Avenue.
Okay.
Where I'm at now at this point. Even Hen Love, N.Y.C, and Eric, they were all black. Okay. You know what I mean? So, yeah, all black dancers. Okay. I went down to Washington Avenue. Washington Avenue, at that time, you know, Puerto Ricans are here, black people here, you know. I mean, you can mix every now and then, but sometimes you can find yourself in some trouble if you was Latino and you was in a black neighborhood and the other way around. Sometimes you can do it. It wasn't always the case, but it did happen, right? So I didn't know the risk. I was just chasing the passion. I think I want to learn how to dance. I want to go. I want to do my moves to see how people react to this new move that I thought of. You know, I want to see how they react to it. And I gotta have an audience. And the jams, the ciphers, where the audience is, that's where they were at. Yeah. So when you get in the cipher, you know somebody else is gonna jump out if you're in their neighborhood. They're not letting you take their props and be the star in their own backyard. You know what I mean? So I went down. I started going on to Webster Avenue. I'm dancing, doing my thing.
This is the South Bronx?
South Bronx, Washington. Well, it's not the South Bronx. It's down Webster. I don't know if that's considered the South Bronx. 169th, 170th. I don't think that's the South Bronx, but that is Webster Avenue. Washington, that's the projects. That's the projects. Okay. It's all projects. You know what I'm saying? So I'm down there. I'm getting down. I'm getting a little bit better. I'm meeting these other dancers and getting a little bit stronger with my dancing. I was always passionate about it. I always went 110%. You know? So I start catching a little bit of fame, right? Start catching a little fame. Scooter was a good. I actually met Scooter not on Washington Avenue. I met Scooter because I got in trouble.
Okay.
And I wound up in Spofford. Right? And when I was in Spofford, I was wearing a chain that said Magic Motion Crew because I got down with a guy named Magic Mike, not the gay video movie, Magic Mike, who was actually my first instructor.
Okay.
So, like I said, I was learning by.
And he was black too?
No, he was a Dominican guy.
Oh, Dominican.
So now I'm all this time I'm learning by watching. But I go to a jam on 161st Street, not too far from where he's at, and I made connection with him. And he goes, "Yo, you're dope, bro." He said, "Yo, I practice in my hallway over here, man. I can straighten all that shit out for you." And I was like, "Oh, cool, whatever." You know what I mean? So one day I just took him up on his offer out in the area. I go, meet him in his hallway, and he goes, "Well, okay, the reason why they call me Magic Mike is because the way I throw my waves. It's like boom, 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 and throw the wave, and then it just."
Oh, okay.
He was just, and I didn't see that. I seen him doing that, and then when I saw Taco doing it in the movie, I said, "Oh, Taco is doing Magic's waves." And I'm like, "How do you know?" I didn't know the difference. I just said, I didn't even know his name was Taco. I said, "That guy is doing Magic's wave. He's a biter." You know what I'm saying? Because that's what Magic did, and he threw him out. He went and threw the wave.
Oh, yeah.
And he was really known for shoulders. He would do this thing with the shoulders. That's how he would hit. He didn't hit with the muscle. He hit with the shoulder. Boom, 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 boom. Right? And sometimes when he would come to battle you, he would wear, his swag was a trench coat. So other people would wear like a suit jacket, like Loose Bruce would wear like a sports suit jacket with jeans or something and the hat turned up and he's popping.
Yeah, I seen him like that.
Yeah, but Magic's swag was a long trench coat.
Okay.
So when he did the shoulders, right, this was wicked.
Okay.
And you could talk to Shake, because Shake was a top dog. You know Shake, right? Chet, the DJ, yeah. He was a top dog too. He was a bad motherfucker too.
Okay.
So Shake and Magic get into a battle. And even Shake said it to this day, that when he saw Magic do that, he was just like, whoa, he was blown away. And what Magic used to do, because he had the trench coat, he would do that wave and do this, but then he would also go boom, 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 right? And go this way, and then his legs would follow. But because of the trench coat, it created an illusion like he went boom, 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 and then he went.
Oh, right.
And you always see his feet turn around because the coat is covering. So it looked real cool where he'd throw the wave and then he'll go ba 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 ba, boom.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was known for that.
Okay.
And it looked really, really good. You know? And he did that on Shake. And Shake said, yo, yeah. He tells that story to this day. He's like, man, it dawned on me. That motherfucker was bad. That twisto flex thing that he did, because with the trench coat, that illusion that it gave was crazy. And he was the first person that said, you know, when you do your waves, bring them. He used his shoulders. He liked the shoulder thing. So he would say, bring. And that's why today when I wave, I come from here. And I go like this.
Oh, okay.
Because that's what he told me to, so you can see. Because that's that extra little piece that's missing. Because a lot of people go like this here, then they go here.
Oh.
And they wave. And he's like, no, you got all these joints, use them all. You know, use all those joints so they can see the wave and it comes out nice and clean. So he cleaned up all my waves and some of my isolation. You know, moving one thing at a time, just doing stuff like this and going.
Oh, okay.
You know, that just one part at a time, isolations. He helped me with all that stuff. And that wasn't even his style. He was just saying, this is what'll work for you. If you learn how to just move one piece at a time. And then I learned some glides from him, really good glides. Besides the moonwalk or the backslide, right? There was front glides that he did and side glides that he did. And I picked up some of that, and I also picked up from Scooter. Scooter had really good glides and a good robot. Scooter had, we call it the mannequin. We didn't call it the robot. We call it mannequin style. So Scooter had a good mannequin. And so I picked up some mannequin being around Scooter. Didn't learn from, well, I did learn from him, but he didn't instruct me. I just was inspired and I watched him. I was around him all the time. And he was around me too. So he said, yo, man, you be hyping me up, man. You know what I mean? You be hyping me up. So he'd be looking forward for me to come down. And I definitely was looking forward to seeing him, you know what I mean? His style, he did the robot and it was real calm, but it was also, he did it for the ladies.
That's what it was about.
Scooter did it for the ladies.
Let me share with you guys. Dancing on the West Coast, all the poppers know Pete, Electric Boogaloo, Skeeter Rabbit, myself. We did it for the ladies.
Yeah.
Because that's how, it was the fastest way to talk to the finest girl in there.
Yeah.
Instead of sitting there like, hey, you know, how you doing tonight?
No.
Bro, you made your own little circle. They was coming.
And he did it like that. And the way he danced, like, cause it's weird because he's not gay. He got laid a lot of times and helped me out a few times, gave me a few donations. So, because I was not really ever good with going up to women and talking to women.
Right.
I just had, I dance and they conversate with me and that's how it happened.
Were you always kind of like a bigger guy even back then?
No, I was skinny. I'll show you some video. I got video of me doing mime as a skinny guy.
Okay.
So, but he used to do his moves and do a snap. That was like a habit that he had. Like he'll do a move and then before he'll glide forward and do this, and then he'll crunch his eyes. So he'll be doing something, maybe a hammer, and then he'll go, bah, bah. You know, and so he'll snap and then go, and be looking at whoever it is most of the times, lady, and go,
right.
You know, so he had that little, you know, that smooth snap thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, this dude is fucking dope. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I hung out with him. And then he was famous for his mannequin, right? And one day, remember I told you about Disco Junior? Mm-hmm. This guy comes up with this big ass boombox at a jam. And he goes, you think I got a mannequin? Check that dude out over there. And I said, oh yeah, I see him. He went to my junior high school. He said, tell him to do the mannequin for you. Right? Because remember I told you they were just doing routines? Mm-hmm. His crew? That motherfucker put down the boombox and went, full roboted. And I was like, wait a minute, Scooter. Scooter said, I told you. I ain't got nothing. That motherfucker do the mannequin. And Junior had that robot mannequin. But it's a classic one. Right. It's like super Soul Train classic mannequin. Like what Michael Jackson did that. It's that. But it was hard, man. It was like he did it and he snapped into it and he moved and he looked like a real robot. Right. You know what I mean? And I was just like, wow. And I became friends with him that day and he had the boombox. He had the big boombox. And at that time, I just began street performing. Now we're going into the street performing world. But I wasn't going downtown because I didn't know about downtown and I was still fairly young. I was going to Fordham Road, up in the Uptown Bronx, big shopping area.
Yeah, I seen it.
And I had see that little radio? And I was like, we need more sound. And I knew it because we went to his building to hang out. And I said, hey man, bring the boombox to fucking Fordham Road. We could probably make some money. And Junior was like, for real? I was like, yeah. And he's older than me now. This guy's he's a little older now. Yeah, let's go. Fordham Road, he got the big ass boombox. We're jamming. Now we got some music. We didn't have a show. We just solo. And we put something out there.
What was you guys popping to back then? What music?
He had all that shit. To this day, he lives in Jacksonville. He has tapes. Okay. Boxes full of tapes. He would sit up all night and record on tapes, DJs playing the music they were playing at that time. Popping, breaking, hip-hop, all hip-hop stuff, classic stuff. He would do that.
On the West Coast, when popping was really starting to blossom and bloom.
Yeah.
It was dancing to like pretty. It was more like Parliament.
No,
Roger.
we didn't have that.
Right, but I'm just saying on the West Coast.
Right.
That's
No.
yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
Our music was faster.
Okay.
We had rock, planet rock. Everything was fast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, we yeah, it was definitely slower for us.
Yours was like boom, ka,
Heartbreaker.
yeah, right. I was like do 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 do. So we moved. It was faster.
Okay.
And we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. The only people that got lucky to learn some good West Coast shit was the ones that had the opportunity to go to the West Coast, to actually go over there.
Right.
We were poor.
Right.
We were in the war zone of the South Bronx. We didn't have video cameras, and we didn't have money to get a flight, which was expensive back then.
Right.
To fly somewhere.
You know who's a brother though I seen in the early documentary he mentioned he was talking about popping and it came from the West Coast was Kippy D, Ray Shaw. Rocksteady Crew, Kippy D. He was the boogie boy in Rocksteady Crew.
Yeah.
Because it was only Mr. Freeze and Kippy D.
Yeah.
Do you know who Kippy D is?
I heard the name, but I don't know who he is.
Okay.
I heard the name.
He was known out here.
Yeah.
Because he was the boogie boy in Rocksteady. He wasn't a b-boy.
Yeah.
He was
I heard the name, but I don't think I ever met him.
He had some basic waves and stuff. He would do like Mr. Freeze real slow, like they would do the robot and act like they had the umbrella and they would do like the heartbeat real slow. Yeah, Kippy D.
Mr. Freeze had the opportunity to get out to the West Coast.
Yeah.
And he had the opportunity to record stuff. We didn't have that money or that. We didn't have those luxuries.
Mm-hmm.
So if you didn't have those luxuries, you couldn't get out there. Everybody did have those luxuries, did get to learn some of the real shit that was coming from the West Coast.
Right.
You know what I mean? We had to learn from watching, and then we had different music, so we had a different tempo. So the style became completely different. It was still inspired from the West Coast, but it was just different tempo of music, and we would, you see a little glimpse of something, like you could watch Soul Train, because remember, Soul Train didn't show it as a whole. When we watched it on this side of town, it was just a quick, you'll see a quick, and that was it. Then they go to the next person and like doing something else, you know. It wasn't, we didn't see full on locking for a full, and the only full on locking we saw was when we saw a rerun. You know what I mean? We didn't see the lockers on Soul Train. We didn't get to see that special. We didn't get to see the Electric Boogaloos on Soul Train. We didn't get to see that special.
Okay.
You know, we didn't get to see that. We didn't get to see that. Otherwise, we would have probably been able to record that and look at it and go over and over and over again and figure it all out. We didn't have that.
I got a question. When Wiggles said he got introduced to the dance, they said they called it boogie and they called it electric boogie.
It's called the electric boogie. Yeah.
And from your
guys, we're gonna eat right now because everybody's starving.
Yo.